Hey tribe, today we're going to talk about lower back and building some of those muscles. A lot of times the low back gets thrown in with the core, as it should. It is part of the core. But a lot of times we're working all the muscles besides the muscles of the low back, which means we're usually working glutes, we're usually working hamstrings, obviously the rectus abdominis, obliques, all help support the lower back. But we also want to make sure that we're getting movement into the lower back with a couple different hinging exercises we can do, as well as creating an isometric contraction of just holding, building time under tension to recruit a little bit more of the muscle fibers. So we're going to go over 3 exercises today. We're going to go over the reverse hyper, which is probably one of the best to start things off. Then we're going to go into some good mornings so we can add some weight to the lower back. And then we're going to go into side plank leg raises that's going to hold the body in the isometric contraction, as well as build a little bit of the glute medius and the TFL on the side of the legs. So first thing we're going to do is going to be a reverse hyper. You can use a bench. For most of us, we can have easy access to a bench. If you have a GHD or reverse hyper machine, that is obviously more optimal, but they're just not as common in most gym locations or home gyms. So when we're getting into the reverse hyper, we want to focus on where the hip is at, the hip bone, which is your ASIS. We want that sitting right on the edge of the bench. From here, we can grab and hold onto the bench with our hands, either underneath or on the side. We are going to create contraction into the abs first and foremost, so we have tension in there. Now we're going to keep the feet together. Feet are going to be straight, and we're going to try and bring those feet up just slightly above parallel. So we can kind of just have them hovering right off the ground, bring them up, and then bring them back down slowly. So the up could be faster, go slow on the way down, spend a couple seconds lowering those legs down, and we're focused on feeling the muscles of this lower back. Now to keep in mind, she can raise these legs up pretty darn high. I'm going to bring them up really high. What we actually can happen is the compression of the vertebrae in the spine. So when we're doing these reverse hypers, and you can relax and come up out of there. So when we're doing these reverse hypers, try to bring those legs up to parallel, maybe a little bit more. We don't want to just use the momentum and just swing them up as high as possible, because then, like I said, you're actually squeezing the vertebrae together, which is not the end of the world. But we want to build the muscles, not just feel the end range of our skeletal system. So spend some time doing those. And the biggest thing is keeping that core pushed out into it. We're not sucking the belly in, we're bracing, and almost that we are trying to pop the belt if we're wearing a belt, trying to push and expand, especially the obliques, out into the actual bench so we can get those to hold stability and then work the muscles of the lower back. The second movement we're going to go into is the good morning. We can use this with a plate, a dumbbell. We could also do this movement with weight standing in front or holding in front of us, but to be a little bit more optimal, we're going to put this bar right on the back. So right on the shoulders, make sure we're not pushing on the neck. We're going to have a soft knee, so the knees don't have to be locked out, just a slight minimal bend. And then we're going to focus on all the movement happening at the hips. So she's going to keep her shoulder blades back as she's going to hinge forward and go to about parallel, maybe a little bit more. Some of you guys who are more mobile can get a little bit further, but a nice neutral spine that's going on here. She should feel the hamstrings getting more of a stretch in there, and she's going to focus on squeezing the glutes right now and kind of contracting the hamstrings to help elevate her body up. Obviously, more time we can to do the movement, the better it is. Time under tension is going to recruit more muscle fibers, and you're going to feel that movement. So don't just go in there and hammer these away. Let's knock out about 5 reps, Nadine. So just be in control, driving the hips back, keeping the knees soft. You can add a little bit more of a bend as we get over there if you need to. Just make sure a lot of that work is happening in the glutes and into the hamstrings when we're raising up. This is building your lower back, because the lower back is going to be tied to the glutes and the hamstrings through the chain, the anatomy train. So we're just going to work through a couple of these reps. Now you can also do them with the bar in front. You can hold a plate in front and do the same thing, any object. But having it on the back, it just keeps the weight as far from the lower back, which is going to create more of the load onto the body. That's why we like doing the good mornings with the barbell onto the back. Good, awesome, relax. The final movement we're going to do is a side-lying plank leg raise. So we can keep this nice and simple. We can go on the elbow, I'm a big fan of, just because when we're on the elbow, it allows more people to be stable up here to keep their hips in line. So from her ankle to knee to hip to shoulder to ear is going to be in a straight line. So I'm showing you the side view if I'm on my arm. But a lot of times when people go to the hands, their body ends up being in this position. Or if we are on the elbow, some of us have to be in this position as well too. And if that's the case, what we can do is just bend these knees or this bottom leg at 90. We want to make sure though that we do bend it at 90 and it's not kicked out here. So we can do the side plank like this, go on that side plank, and then we're just going to raise that leg up. So this is a good way to start. And if we feel good in this position, then we can go into the straight leg version of this. Now, if we're just raising the leg up, we're going to work a lot of the glute medius. And that's exactly what she's doing right now. What Nadine was doing earlier is she had this leg slightly behind her, and she was also focusing on raising the heel up rather than the toe up when she lifts that up. That's going to attack the TFL, the tensor fascia lata. Then the tensor fascia lata is in charge of internally rotating that leg. Internally rotating that thigh, I should say, not leg. The piriformis that's in the glute is externally rotated. For most of those guys or women out there that are weightlifters, we do a lot of external rotation. It used to be the way that we used to push the knees out, rotate the feet. So the piriformis is usually tight. The TFL that's on the side of the body is relatively weak. That's why we can get some IT band, especially in runners. If you get IT band syndrome or IT band issues, it feels like a lot of that is just weakness in the TFL. Resting leg syndrome, if we have that and we're like kind of trying to figure out how to stretch, doing this movement will help kick in that TFL with the heel high rather than the toe. And then having the leg slightly behind the body as well, we should definitely feel it coming slightly at an angle into the glute max. So knocking this out will help kind of create lateral stability of the spine of the lower back, especially if we have one side that's irritable more than the other, or if it's bilateral on both sides. These are some good movements to just throw in generally with or without low back problems, but you're all set right there. So 3 movements that we have today that can help build the muscles of the lower back is going to be that reverse hyper. Make sure we're sitting right on the ASIS, which is the hip bone that you can feel. That should be right on the edge of the bench or the box. If you have a GHD or a reverse hyper machine, even better, and knock that out. We have good mornings, prefer a barbell, so we have the load as far away from the lower back as possible. So it increases the load capability of the lower back. And just taking those slow. And then we have the side plank hip raises. We can also rotate the heel and slightly behind the body, rotating that and lifting it to help focus on the TFL while we create an isometric contraction into the spine. Try those out. Let us know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe if you like these videos. Give us ideas in the comments. We're always here for other people's opinions or issues that you're going through to help you guys out. Now, we'll see you guys next week.